Hello friends, welcome to Knowledge House. Let's look into today's The Hindu newspaper, that is of the date 29th of August 2018. So as usual, we'll be looking only to certain articles that are important from a UPSC and various other competitive exams perspective. So I welcome you all to this video. Let's start. The first article is regarding the NRC. So the Supreme Court questions the second chance for those left out of NRC. So the Supreme Court asked the center whether it was giving those 40 lakh people who were left out of the NRC a second chance to gain citizenship by allowing them to produce the fresh documents to prove their family roots in India. So the court was referring to the SOP, that is Standard Operating Procedure, proposed by the government, which allows a claimant for the Indian citizenship to change his legacy by submitting additional documents at the claims and objections stage. I'll repeat the statement once again. The court was referring to the SOP that was proposed by the government, which allows the claimant. For example, if somebody who was left out of NRC, and if he wants to claim the Indian citizenship, he is allowed to change his legacy by, or he can change his legacy by submitting additional documents at the claims and objection stage. And the court asked whether this would amount to redoing of the claims of those who left out of the draft NRC, which was published on July 31st. So you see, the claimant submits documents to prove his legacy from his father. A family tree is drawn, which includes the claimant's siblings also, and the authorities verify his claim with each one of them. The authorities verify his claim with each one of the members in the family tree before deciding his claim. So now the government's SOP says a person can submit fresh documents allowing his legacy from his grandfather. The family tree has to be recreated, everything has to be re-verified. Whether this would amount to redoing of the whole exercise. That's what the Supreme Court asked Attorney General K.K. Venugopal. So consequences are severe. That should be given. That is, consequences are so severe that should they be given one more chance. Suppose a claimant has misfired once but can deliver in the next. Why should such a person not be given another chance? That's what Justice Nariman asked the chief coordinator of this whole exercise, Mr. Haleja. And trading of legacies, that's another aspect about which Mr. Haleja talked in the Supreme Court. So Mr. Haleja said reopening of the family trees would risk the possibility of trading of legacies. Giving a second chance would open the chance only for trading within legacies. So this is important. Anyway, I mentioned about this only for a conceptual understanding. So that's all about this article. We are moving on to the next one. It is regarding the uh, audit of child shelters. So the Supreme Court audit finds the audit of child shelters really frightening. So in an affidavit filed before the bench led by Justice Madan B. Lokur, the national uh, the NCPCR, it is the National Council for Protection of Children Rights. So represented by advocate, her name is also mentioned. Anyway, that's not important for us. So NCPCR is carrying out an audit of the child care institutions and other bodies such as children homes, open shelters, observation homes, special homes, places of safety, specialized adoption agencies, and fit facilities under the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 and the model rules. So anyway, the surprising or the frightening, or rather the most disappointing factor is that only less than somewhere around 40% of the children who were staying at such homes gave them a positive feedback about the whole establishment. So this is really frightening. That's what Supreme Court also mentioned. Anyway, that's all important about that. The particle or the regarding child rights, it is a really important topic. There are various international conventions to which India is also a signatory. So please do proper research on the child rights and related things, because chances are more that there can be a question regarding this in mains exam. So that's all important about this article. Let's move on to the next one. It is regarding Punjab legislature. So they recently made an amendment, the Indian Penal Code Punjab Amendment Bill 2018, that inserted a section 295AA to provide that whoever causes injury, damage, or sacrilege to Sri Guru Granth Sahib, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Holy Quran, and the Holy Bible with an intention to hurt the religious feelings of those people shall be punished with imprisonment of life. That's what this particular amendment is all about. So that's all important about this article. Moving on to the next one, it is regarding the scientific advisory panel of the Prime Minister. So government scraps the scientific panels and forms the council. So government has scrapped the two scientific advisory committees for the Prime Minister and the Cabinet and replaced them with a 9-member Prime Minister Science, Technology, Innovation Advisory Council. So PMSTIAC. So, unlike the earlier scientific advisory committees, the secretaries of various scientific ministries such as education, environment, health would be special invitees to the council meetings. So, the PM STIAC, let me call it STIAC for the time being, PM STIAC will be chaired by the government's principal scientific advisor, Dr. K. Vijayaraghavan. While the industry representatives were present in greater numbers in the earlier SACs, a single industry member, particularly given the government's call to industry to increase jobs via entrepreneurship, is not an anomaly. That's what Dr. Vijayaraghavan said. And there was a separate dedicated group involving the cabinet secretary and the PSA to focus on driving innovation all the way to commercialization. And here the PSA refers to principal scientific advisor. So that's all important about this article. We are moving on to the next one. It is regarding the international relations. So talks may collapse. That's what North Korea tells the US. North Korean officials have warned in a letter to the US that denuclearization talks were again at stake and may fall apart. That's what CNN has reported on Tuesday, citing people familiar with the matter. So the US is not ready to meet the North Korean expectations in terms of taking a step towards signing a peace treaty. The 1950-1953 Korean War ended in an armistice, leaving the US-led UN forces technically still at war with North Korea. So that's all important about this article. Anyway, there was a lot of noise when in the meeting between the Kim Jong Un and President Donald Trump at Singapore, and everything was really positive. Anyway, now things are going back to the previous time. So no more suspension of joint drills. The US will end its suspension of military drills on North Korea, a move that had been decided as a good faith measure following President Donald Trump's summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong Un at Pentagon on Tuesday. That is the not Pentagon on Tuesday. That's what Pentagon said on Tuesday. We took a step to suspend several of the largest military exercises as a good faith measure, but now things may get back to normal. This will again raise tensions in this particular peninsula. Anyway, let's hope for the best. Let's move on to the next article. So yesterday we read regarding Iran complaining, or Iran raised the issue of US sanctions, or US reimposing the sanctions at the International Court of Justice. So right now the US counterpart has replied to the complaint to the same issue at the International Court of Justice. So the US told the UN judges on Tuesday that they had no jurisdiction to rule on Tehran's demand for them or order a suspension of sanction against Iran. Iran has argued that the US President Donald Trump breached a 1955 treaty with his decision to reimpose the sanctions after withdrawing from a multilateral nuclear accord. So Jennifer Newstead, she is the lawyer who represented US at this court. So she argued that the US had the right to protect its national security and other interests. The treaty cannot therefore provide a basis for the court's jurisdiction. Uh, uh, that's what she argued in the court in favor of the United States. So anyway, let's see how things are going to evolve, especially within the ICJ. So that's all about that article. We are moving on to the next one. So LIC to pick up 7% more stake in the IDBI Bank. So as a first step in acquiring a controlling stake in the state-run lender IDBI Bank, LIC has decided to pick up a further 7% stake in the lender through a preferential issue. Currently, LIC holds 7.9%. So with this, once the additional 7% is complete, it will have 14% or nearly 15% stake in the bank. So, while the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India has given its in-principle approval to the LIC to pick up 51% stake in the IDBI, sources said the final approval from the regulator may take time. So that's all important about today's news. So just like I promised yesterday, we'll be taking up some issues regarding we'll be taking up three more issues. One is regarding international criminal court, and the other one regarding electoral bond, and the other one regarding ethanol blending and the national biofuel policy. So that's what I promised yesterday, so I'm keeping it. So international criminal court, it's an intergovernmental organization and an international tribunal. It is headquartered at The Hague in Netherlands. So ICC has a jurisdiction to prosecute individuals for international crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, and is an independent organ of the no, and it is independent of the United Nations, both on the legal part and on the financial part. So actually, the legal branch, or the judicial branch of United Nations, is actually International Court of Justice. It is not International Criminal Court. So please take a note of that. Once options are on paper, it is highly likely that you may feel confused. So study at least study one thing, so that the other one will be automatically comes when options are available for you. So ICJ is the branch of UN, not ICC. So ICC is intended to complement the existing national judicial systems, and it may therefore only exercise its jurisdiction when certain conditions are met, such as when the national courts are unwilling or unable to prosecute criminals, or when the United Nations Security Council or individual states refer those investigations to the court. So it currently has around 123 members, and India is not one of them. US and China are also not one of them. So what causes what's the reason behind these countries? Why these countries are not joining such a body of international importance? So the issue of state sovereignty and the national interest versus the powers of the ICC, the difficulty in collecting evidence, the problem of finding an impartial prosecutor acceptable to the international community, and the definition of crimes that would come within the ICC's jurisdiction emerged as the challenges that India cites for not accepting ICC's jurisdiction. So the challenges include finding an impartial prosecutor, and the definition of the crimes that comes under the ICC jurisdiction, and collecting evidence, and also various national interest also. So that's all important about that particular part. So far 9 investigations have been opened and 36 individuals have been indicted. All of the investigations have been in Africa. Hence ICC has been accused of selective enforcement of the Western imperialism towards African countries. This is a really serious allegation. So that's all about International Criminal Court. So let's move on to the next article. And just like I promised, it's regarding the electoral bond. So electoral bonds is a bearer instrument in the nature of a promissory note, and is an interest-free banking instrument that can be redeemed only through the registered accounts of a political party in a prescribed time frame. So it's just like a bond which can be encashed only by a political party through an account. So the values of electoral bonds have been fixed as 1,000, 10,000, 10 lakh, and 1 crore, and maybe can only be issued by the specified branches of the SBI. A citizen of India or a body incorporated in India will be eligible to purchase the bond only on the due fulfillment of all KYC norms and by making the payment from a bank account. So that's all about that part. So it has a life of 15 days. Please take a note of this. Once options comes into play, definitely this is going to be a tricky part. So 15 days, and which can be used to make donations to the registered political parties. So political parties that have secured not less than 1% of the votes polled. Please take a note of that. It is not less than 1% of the votes polled in the last general election to the Lok Sabha Assembly or a legislative assembly can avail the fund through these bonds. So that's all important about electoral bonds. Next is ethanol blending program and the national policy on biofuels. So ethanol blending program was launched by the central government in 2003 to promote the use of alternative environmental friendly fuels. So since 2006, oil marketing companies, that's what OMCs mean, oil marketing companies were not able to meet required quantity of ethanol demand against the tenders floated by them. The various constraints for it were state specific issues, supply related issues, and the pricing issues of ethanol. In order to augment the supply of ethanol, the new mechanism for pricing of ethanol was placed in, where the government decided the delivered price of ethanol at OMC depots. Anyway, that's not important for us. Just go through the constraints, what exactly happened and how the government has tackled the same. So the government union cabinet policy approved the national policy on biofuels that seeks to not only to help the farmers dispose their surplus stock in an economic manner, but also reduce import India's oil imports. So it also helps to raise or diversify the income of the farmers. Once the surplus comes into it, definitely the policy or they can be the surplus can be used for making this biofuel. So definitely that gives them an additional income. So this also the government has a target of doubling the farmers income by 2022. So this also helps them to achieve the same target. And farmers at risk of not getting appropriate price for their produce during the surplus production phase. So definitely, because once there is a surplus and the demand is not in a proper equation with the surplus, definitely farmers will not get a proper price. But now if there is a surplus, they can use it for other means. So definitely that's a additional advantage for farmers. So taking this into account, the policy allows the use of surplus food grains for the production of ethanol blending with petrol, with the approval of National Biofuel Coordination Committee headed by the Prime Minister. So, who is the head? Who is the head of the National Biofuel Coordination Committee? It is the Prime Minister. It can be a question in prelims, or yeah, it can be a question in prelims. So, just like I mentioned, now for not getting appropriate price, this particular fact, when taken into account, this national biofuel policy allows the use of surplus food grains for production of ethanol only with the approval of National Biofuel Coordination Committee, which is headed by the Prime Minister. And also there is another committee that is mentioned with regards to the National Biofuel Policy is Biofuel Steering Committee, which is headed by Cabinet Secretary. So these things are really important. Once we see it in a question paper, definitely there can be a confusion who heads what. So that's all important about today. So thank you very much for watching this video, and please, if you hit the please hit the like button if you like this video, and do share it with your friends. You can follow us on Telegram, and you can also visit our blog, that is www.knowledgehouse.co, and also you can subscribe our channel so that you won't miss any updates from us, and we'll be coming up with more interesting and compelling videos. So definitely you can support us by making donations to this particular Paytm number. Anyway, it's not mandatory, but if you feel that you can support us, definitely please do support us. It will be a great help for us, whatever small, however smaller be the amount. And also another way you can support us is by sharing this video as much as possible, and also by subscribing this channel. So thank you very much for watching this video once again. Have a nice day.